What's up YouTube? This is our tiny little van and today we'll take you on a tour and show you how we live. So if you just stumbled across this video, my name is Arthur, that's Cynthia. We're traveling together and we're living in this tiny little van and we share our experience on YouTube through these videos. So check out this video, check out some other videos. If you like something, drop some likes, that's highly appreciated, and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Anyways, today we're going on a tour of our freshly converted super tiny camper van. But before we do that, we're gonna have some dinner. So the van itself is a 1994 Toyota Town Ace, and we bought the thing about 10 months ago for 2,000 New Zealand dollars, which is about 1,200 United States dollars. So because we got the car so cheap, we had to invest quite a bit of money in it to get the thing going properly, but we'll make another video about all of the expenses for the van and for the conversions, so subscribe if you want to see that video. But the car has a 2-liter diesel engine and it produces a whopping 86 horsepower, so this thing just it doesn't fly, it's not very fast. It has an automatic transmission and it is rear-wheel drive, so if you're on a slippery enough surface, you can actually get the thing to go sideways, but it doesn't like that at all. Now the van itself is pretty small, and just to give you a perspective, this is me next to the van. So it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's a perfect size for me and Cynthia for a traveling couple. So anyway, let's start the tour here at the back. And at the back here we have our kitchen area. So these are all of our tables, and the reason why they go like this is because we had to fit in the sink, and underneath the sink we have all of the plumbing. And since there's not a lot of space, we had to make it quite high. Now for me, if all of the table would be this high, it wouldn't be too bad, because I would still be able to cook something and make food and whatever. But for Cynthia, since she's so short, it's kind of high for her. So we have our sink here, which is actually just a repurposed baking tray with a hole drilled in the middle. We have our faucet, and the best thing about this is that we have an electric pump, so we have running water. So this is really nice setup because you have an electric pump. Other vans use, just a hand pump, and it's quite inconvenient. So having an electric pump is really nice. And yeah, and the best thing about all of this setup is that this thing actually lifts up like this. So you take this rope from here and you make it into a sort of a floating table. So now you can add the stove and you have a nice place where to make some food. And you have another table surface freed up, so you can, you can chop some onions here and then you can cook something on the stove. So it's really convenient to make food. About the stove. So the stove is it's actually a really old thing. The stove is from the 1980s, but we got it brand new. So the thing about this stove is that it's made from proper metal, and it's like this thing can do some serious damage. So when buying a new stove, those things cost around 100 bucks, and they're made from these really thin sheet metal, and it's flimsy and it feels like it's going to fall apart. Now this thing feels properly solid. It's not gonna fall apart on us or on the next couple that's going to be using this. So for the stove we have the gas bottle down here, and we have all of the plumbing here. We have the gray water container here. I keep some stuff for the engine, like the engine oil and the transmission fluid here as well, because it's just a convenient place to put it. And we have our gas tank, which is a 2 kilo gas bottle. We keep the hose in here, so you just screw it on here and hook up the stove, and it's good to go. Now, before this setup, we had a different kind of stove, which was just on these butane canisters, and that thing was just horrible. You know, the canisters are cheap. You can buy 4 canisters for like $5 or $6, but you use up 1 canister in 2 days, and if you're cooking meat, it just takes forever to cook anything on that thing. So we went for this setup, and the bottle, like the gas bottle, lasts for about 3 weeks, making food in the morning and in the evenings, you know, making coffee, whatever. And to refill it, it costs about $8, so it's way more efficient, it cooks way better, and it's a lot cheaper. We still have the old stove, just in case we ever run out of gas and we need to, you know, finish preparing the food, but it's just way more convenient. Yeah, and so here we have our freshwater tank, and if you look here, we have our water pump right there. The white thing, that's our water pump, and we have some fuses there and other stuff that we're going to talk about in a minute. Now, and lastly, under this table we have just these baskets where we keep our food and stuff. And the best thing about this is that if we take these things out, we can actually access the storage area under the bed, so that's really convenient. I know other vans just kind of close up the rear area, so it's inconvenient to keep stuff underneath the bed, but this way we can access the storage space there, and it's just really convenient. Yeah, and that's kind of it about the kitchen area. There's nothing really more to talk about. Oh, the materials that we used. So most of the van, well actually kind of all of it, is built from these 7mm plywood, which was just cut to shape and then stained with oil. By the way, I have videos about how we were making the van, so you can check out those. I will leave links down in the description so you can check out the full process, how we ripped everything out and rebuilt the van. Because yeah, when we got the van, it was actually converted, but the conversion the previous owners did was already getting old and it was getting kind of nasty, so we just opted to throw everything out and build from scratch. So that's kind of it about the kitchen. Let's move on to the living area. So before we talk about the living area, we need to go underneath the bed, and I'm going to show you all of our storage space. So pretty much everything under the bed is just storage. I keep my clothes here, and like these things, these plastic containers are the best things for getting organized. It's just super convenient to have them, because even though we have all of this storage space under the bed, before these containers everything was just thrown kind of under the bed, so getting something was a real hustle. And now you can just get really organized with these things. They're super convenient. So underneath the bed we keep pretty much all of our stuff. This is kind of all of our life here under the bed. There's nothing really that interesting. We have a portable toilet there in the back. I don't really want to pull it out because it's hard to put in there. But we have a portable toilet there. We have all of our stuff for taking a shower, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So anyways, here we have the entrance to our living room, and this is our mailbox. Well, it's a funny story actually, because when we were building the van, I was building this cupboard, and after we installed it, we kind of realized that, hey, it actually looks like a mailbox, so we just went with it. And we decided to kind of, you know, make fun of it and just pretend it's our mailbox. So here we have our original Kiwi barometer, this funny little thing. Yeah, and behind our mailbox we have hose for filling up fresh water. So you need to have your own hose for fresh water because you don't have a hose provided. And also, honestly, you wouldn't want to use a hose that's just been there used for whatever, because Usually right next to the fresh water you have the dump station for gray water, and you have a hose on the faucet there, but people use it to wash their cassettes, which is essentially, you know, their toilets. So that's something you want to avoid. Moving on, in here we still have our Christmas decorations up, but on this side we have a small little storage space for, you know, the stuff that we use on a daily, and we have a small little garbage can right there. And that's kind of it. Let's move into the van. So as you can see, the van isn't too big. So when I'm sitting in the van or working in the van, you know, doing something, editing photos, a video, whatever, I usually kind of have to sit hinged like this because there's not enough headroom for me. For Cynthia, it's perfect. Now you might be wondering, why didn't I make the bed lower so that I would have proper amount of space? But the thing is that I had to fit the portable toilet underneath the bed. Because to be self-contained in New Zealand we have to have a portable toilet, and this was the lowest that I could make the bed so that I could fit the portable toilet underneath it. So I couldn't make it lower if I wanted to. So still about the cupboard, we have two shelves. The upper shelf is for Cynthia, the lower shelf is for mine. We kind of kept this look that it's, you know, stained plywood with these pieces of rope. We also have rope for our curtains, so we try to keep it in the same style, I guess. So our living area here, actually the thing is, our whole living space, like all of the living space in the van, is smaller than a king-size bed. So our bed is 1.9 meters by 1.1 meter. Now that might sound really small, but it's actually not that bad because we have this space here. So even though the bed kind of ends here, we can still, you know, if I'm sleeping in the van like this, you still have this space so you're not kind of falling out of bed. So even though the bed is kind of really small, we can sleep here, two people perfectly without any problems, and you still have a bit of room to spare. So it's perfectly enough. Here on this side we have a shelf here where we can keep, you know, all sorts of things. Now with the shelf though, it's a bit tricky because you can't put on any big things on here, because driving along winding roads or whatever, stuff usually falls off the shelf, even though we have like this stopper here so nothing falls off. Anyway. Also here, right next to the bed, we have a little bit of storage space. Now that storage space is used for stuff that we don't use often. So pretty much it's just kind of like our junk drawer, where we keep, you know, stuff that we use rarely and stuff like that. And behind that we have our battery. So this is the electrical system in the van. We have a massive 100 amp hour battery. That's the charge controller. That's a 400 watt inverter. So we have all of the fuses, so everything is fused out nice and safe. And about the solar panel, we have this massive 200 watt panel, and it's a funny story about this thing. I'm going to make a video just about the you know, the whole solar setup that we have in the van, and I'm gonna tell the story in that video because yeah, we barely got this thing to fit on the van, and I kind of did a stupid thing when buying that, but I'll tell you all about that in another video. So anyway, let's get down from the van and go back inside. So actually, while we're outside of the van, here on the other side we have the door that we barely ever use. And this door is used to access the other side of the van. So this is what's really nice about the storage space underneath the bed, because we can access it from this side, we can access it from that side, and we can also access it from the back. So that makes it really convenient. If you have anything anywhere underneath the bed, you can pretty much really easily grab it. So that's real nice. We also have a barbecue, which is a really nice thing to have. At first I didn't really want to get it because I thought it's going to be a lot of trouble and just a big mess to use it. But Cynthia really wanted one, so we got one, and turns out it's the best thing ever. It's actually easier to clean this than to do the dishes in the kitchen in the van. And it's just really nice to have a barbecue, you know, roll up to a freedom camp and just fire it up and make some chicken. We also have a tent, some chairs here, a shovel, and other stuff underneath the bed. So yeah, that's kind of it for this side. So going back inside of the van, I'm going to show you the best feature that we have on this thing. And well, it's a shame that it's broken right now, but it's this. And that's a mini projector. So this is how it works. You screw it in here. This is the bit that's broken now, but I'll have to fix that. So you screw it in here, and you have the projector facing that way, so you close up the curtains here, and that gives us a nice big screen to watch movies on. And the screen is actually pretty big. It's like 35 inches, so it's a proper nice movie experience here in the van. And the best thing about this thing is that it's portable, and if you want to, you can just take it outside, put a piece of cloth on the side of the van, and just watch a movie outside. So this is by far the best thing. Yeah, this is my top thing that we have in the van. And yeah, we also have a guitar back here that me and Cynthia are trying to start and learn how to play. We've learned a little bit, but you know, it's just one of those things that we try to get around, but we don't really do. And while we're here, this is our lighting solution. We have these fairy lights running across the roof lining, and we use it as a light source. Now also we have these decorations, which are places that we like to visit, and these things are actually covering up tears in the roof line because, you know, the van has been used for transporting stuff and pieces of the roof lining have been torn off. So Cynthia came up with this clever solution to cover these places with, you know, these things, and it turned out really nice. So yeah, that's kind of it about the living area. So it's time to move up front and finish up the tour of this van. So the front of the van is probably the most boring thing because there's not a lot of stuff happening, but the thing that we do have here is we have a bit of storage space behind the seat. So Cynthia uses this space for her clothes. We have a small toolkit that we use, and also we have one of the best things in the world when you're living in a van, and that's a portable shower. Like, this thing is awesome. Oh, and also about this van is just the driving position. So if you take a look, you're kind of sitting on the front wheels, so that makes it for an interesting driving position. And it's a bit weird. When I first was driving this car, it's a bit weird to sit on the front wheels and steer the car around, especially when you're parking it. So that was something that I had to get used to. Also, up here we have a bit of storage space in the middle because like there's a lot of space in front of the van. There's a lot of cabin space, but the problem is there's no place to put anything. You know, there's like no cup holders. Like here on the doors, there's nothing. You can't put anything in the doors. And also in the middle of the center console, there's a bit of space to put stuff, but if you need to access the engine to check the engine oil or whatever, you have to lift up this seat, and this part lifts up with it, so you can't keep things permanently here, because once you need to access the engine, you have to take everything out from here. Pretty much all of it. Cynthia added some photos, some Polaroid photos from our trip, which is awesome. It looks really nice. We have a flower here to make it feel a bit more like home. And we also have this GoPro mount as well, because driving around New Zealand, the roads here are crazy beautiful, and we just mount our GoPro here to film time lapses of the roads because it's insanely beautiful to drive around New Zealand. The scenic views are just awesome. And yeah, that's kind of it. So yeah, that's kind of it. It's a small little thing, so there's not really that much to talk about. If you do want to see anything specific, or you want to know anything specific about living in this thing, you know, just write a comment down below and I'll answer any questions you might have. And just in general, you know, living in a car this small, it's definitely a challenge, but we've been loving living in this thing every single day for the past 10 months now. Like, we've been living full-time in this van for the past about 10 months, and it's been amazing. So we plan to do that for a couple of months more. I've seen people live in even smaller vans and smaller cars even, but you know, this is the smallest I think we could do as a couple traveling around, because if you're traveling alone, like, you could live in a smaller car, but if it's two people, you need something at least this size. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching.